South by Southwest, everyone. Now, Louise and Brad, we did South by Southwest together last year. Had a lovely time. Becky, this was you losing your South by Southwest virginity this year, right?
Yes, it was. I had one virginity left and it is now gone.
It's gone. Brad, how have you found it? As ever, you've seen way more films than we have, I think. But how's the quality been for you so far?
It's been pretty good. The mix. I've watched a lot of stuff outside of the horror stuff because I don't value my time, and it's been really good. Did anyone else? Can I ask? Did anyone else get invited to that party hosted by Snoop Dogg and Kelly Clarkson?
Well, I got a lot of emails inviting me to parties, but I just kept deleting them because it was making me too upset that we couldn't be there to actually go.
One of them was hosted by Snoop Dogg and Kelly Clarkson, and I'm hurt.
I think that we should all try and go in person next year, shouldn't we? Let's make that our goal.
Yes, we should.
Louise, how are you holding up? Because we've gone straight from Fright Fest straight into South by Southwest. Does your brain also feel like it might melt at some point?
Yeah, it has melted. I think it melted about 3 days ago. I think it's perfectly epitomised by the fact that we were on day 2, 3 of Fright Fest, and because we'd watched the movie in the middle, we decided, we've got time to watch the South by Southwest movie. So we came back to my flat, shut the curtains, and watched Deadstream. And then that was fine. Fed you an Empire biscuit, because it turns out they're Scottish. Who knew?
Delicious.
And then went back to the GFT to watch again. So we managed to double festival at once, but it does mean that we've watched an awful lot of horror.
Yes.
An awful lot of horror.
Yes, absolutely. So let's rattle through some of these films. We won't spoil too much about any of them, but we'll just talk a little bit about each one, say we'd recommend them. So predominantly, of course, we're going to be talking about the Midnighter category, right? So this is the section of films at South by Southwest that usually covers horror, thriller, fantasy, any genre stuff. So we're mainly going to be rattling through those and a couple of the narrative features, which also fall under the umbrella of horror. So let's kick off with Deadstream. Louise, tell us a bit about Deadstream.
Basically, it is set in a haunted house when a disgraced YouTuber wants to claw his fans and his sponsors back. And his best way of doing that, of course, as is the way of the internet, is to go to a haunted house and post all his individual little cameras and just stream the fuck out of it. And then he screams the fuck out of it. And it is an absolute joy. A joy. A wonderful found footagey meta-y satire.
Loved it. So good. It's so much fun. Proper like laugh out loud comedy and like scream out loud horror. I thought that, there's always this thing, isn't there, with comedy horrors, it's like it's one or the other, and it's quite rare. It's quite a rare treat to get a film that like does both, and this really did both. Like I literally at one point shouted like fuck really, really loudly because something made me jump so much. But yeah, the rest of the time I was just like guffawing my way through it. I thought it was so good.
Brad, after Dashcam and now this, are we in like a live stream horror kind of new genre movement or something here?
I mean, I'm fine if that is the case, because Dashcam and Deadstream are both incredibly fun rides.
So good.
This is like watching like a Logan Paul, a Jake Paul, a David Dobrik, like an absolute dickhead streamer have the worst time, because there's nothing more satisfying than seeing these kind of annoyingly vacuous people waterboarded with piss.
Yes. So good. I know. And that's what's so brilliant about it, right? Because it is nasty and it is scary, but it's so enjoyable because you're watching it happen to people that deserve it. Let's be honest. Like, it's great. Really, really fun.
And it's super squishy and it's very evil. I mean, it's basically evil Deadstream.
Yes.
Because it's just full of really kind of, by the time you get up close to the monsters, shall we say, by the time you get up close to whatever it is, you can see how rubbery it is. You kind of just want to prod it. It's like that thing that's been going around Twitter of that squishable Ripley from Alien. It's basically that in monster form happening to a horrific YouTuber who starts saying things like, I didn't know she was like that and it wasn't my fault. It's like, no, you're a dreadful individual and you deserve all of this.
So that's Deadstream. Does anyone know if that's getting any kind of distribution? Shudder. They were good old Shudder. I mean, of course it is. That's going to be such a good film to watch at home on Shudder, I think, as well, isn't it? Yeah. Really, really fun. So there you go. Keep a lookout for that one. Next up, we're going to talk about more influencer horror with Sxsw. Becky, tell us a little bit about Sxsw.
Cecilia and Emma were tweenage BFFs who were going to grow old together and never let anything come between them until Alex arrived on the scene. 12 years later, Cecilia is a successful social media influencer, living the dream of an independent, modern, millennial woman until she runs into Emma for the first time in over a decade. And Emma invites her away on her bachelorette weekend at a remote cabin where Alex proceeds to make Cecilia's weekend a living hell. And it's Australian, and I love an Australian horror.
It has that real Ozploitation kind of Aussie vibe, doesn't it?
Really Aussie, like sense of humor. And it kind of, there are parts of it that really like, it uses the kind of intrinsic terror of like the Australian outback or like the Australian landscape to kind of really mess with the characters. It's good.
There is even a scene of kangaroo peril in there as well. You know, it's like they had to put it in. Brad, what did you think of Sissy?
I liked it. It's kind of wears quite a lot of different hats because obviously it's like a sort of social commentary on influencer status and how that can kind of corrupt people's minds again. But also it's kind of like almost like a straightforward run and gun slasher.
Yeah.
Once it gets going. And it's got some fucking gnarly kills.
Yeah.
Really good.
Proper gnarly kills. So yeah, once again, this is also Shudder.
Oh, I love it. Louise, what did you think of Sissy?
Yeah, I really liked it. I think it was a movie of really two halves, one of which was exactly that gruey slasher, and the other was just kind of this sad exploration of friendship and how it falls to pieces, and the sad sort of the many serotonin hits you get from people on the internet telling you you're wonderful. And I think that was a really important part of it, of, well, here's the actual horror before we splatter it all over, because actually it's just desperately sad of this poor girl. I mean, even at the start, it's not spoiling anything to say that she's, you know, shot with her ring light and everything's wonderful and she's telling people to put a ring around themselves and just breathe, but actually her dishes are everywhere, her kitchen's a nightmare, her living room's a complete disaster, and you're like, okay, I see what you're doing here. The horror arrives long before the blood starts to flow.
It is great, and also it's one of those films again, a little bit like, who am I rooting for here? Who should I like or should I not like, or are they actually all awful? And it has quite a lot of fun with that throughout as well. It's really good. So that's Sissy, also coming to Shudder. So keep a lookout for Sissy. Let me just very quickly talk about X, and I will do this very briefly because it is out this weekend, so everyone can go see it. I'm the only one that's had a chance to see it so far while we're recording this, but this is the new film by Ty West, set in the late 70s, of course, because it's Ty West. A group of filmmakers set out to make an adult film in rural Texas, but when their reclusive elderly hosts catch them in the act, shit goes down, basically. And that's all I'll say. It's amazing. It's one of the most fun horror movies I've seen all year, and I watched it at a press screening and I already can't wait to see it again. Like, I'm going to buy a ticket to see it again with an audience because it's so much fun. Are you guys going to go check this out? Becky, you've bought your ticket for this already, haven't you?
I'm seeing it tomorrow with the lovely Adam Robinson. Yeah, so very
lovely.
excited. You should come with us.
I know, I kind of want to. Brad, what about you? I take it you're going to go see this.
Yeah, bro.
Are you a big Ty West fan, Brad?
Yeah. I like House of the Devil. Everything else, yeah.
Louise, can your brain handle some more splattery, violent horror?
This is asking for a friend. Is it a date movie?
I think it is a date movie, like in the way that a gory slasher movie is a date
friend
movie.
Is. Oh, interesting. Good.
Yeah.
I'll tell my friend.
Are you
I'll
the
tell
friend?
my friend. I'm going to tell my friend that it's a good date movie.
Are you going to tell yourself?
Yeah, she is.
Okay, just asking.
Maybe.
So there you go. So that was X. Let's talk a little bit about Slashback. I didn't have a chance to see this one, but Brad, tell us a bit about Slashback.
In a remote Arctic community, a group of Inuit girls fight off an alien invasion, all while trying to make it to the coolest party in town.
Oh, this sounds fun. That's a fun premise. Brad, what did you think of it?
Really liked it. It's really nice to see a different culture represented in horror. Although this is probably one of the least horror-y films of the bunch. It's a really joyful and fun experience, and I think it's really shines a light on a different kind of community and a different identity and a different set of values when it comes to horror that we don't I've personally never seen an Inuit horror film. So it was a really refreshing and fun kind of girl gang smashing up aliens kind of vibe. Big fan of that.
Becky, was it you that told me it was kind of like Attack the Block, kind of? Is it that sort of
Yeah,
vibe?
it's very much so, but like set in kind of beautiful, like top of the world landscapes, rather than a tower block. But yeah, it is. It's kind of that sort of vibe. You know, they're like sort of rough and tumble teens, just sort of living their lives and sort of riding their bikes around and stuff.
Right.
And then
nice.
an alien force kind of starts to attack, and it's up to them to take it on. And it's great. Like they're really likable kids. And it's just it's really good. Like you can tell that it's really got that kind of indie vibe where the performances are really, really naturalistic. So there's some moments where you're like, I reckon they have cast this person like literally just kind of out of the community, but that makes it feel so much like more tangible and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's great. I really, really liked it.
Oh, love it. Louise, were you a fan of this one?
Yeah, I thought everything that Becky and Brad have said, but I think it's really endearing and it's really sweet. You just watch these, and it is like that kind of idealistic summer that we've seen in so many sort of Stephen King type things, but actually in such a different location and in such a different style. But I also I thought the monsters, like the aliens, were pretty scary.
They're
like,
fucking scary.
And at some points they reminded me of the alien in the skin suit in Men in Black, just kind of the thing that's looking for sugar water. But at the same time, there's also some really interesting, imaginative stuff, and it's really good.
Ooh, nice. Anyone know if that's getting distribution of any kind? Brad, is this one popping up on Shudder that we know of?
I haven't seen yet. What I would say is
maybe
the male characters, or the characters of the kind of aliens when they're inhabiting the humans, I got broadcast signal intrusion vibes.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Like the from like the way their faces hang and stuff.
Yeah.
It gave me that. And also like in terms of like kind of Taika Waititi kind of styling. You know, that kind of indie comedy sort of that kind of tone. Nice. Playfully fun.
Amazing. There you go. So that's Slashback. Hopefully people will be able to check that out at some point. Next up, let's talk about The Cellar. Oh, now, Louise, we were going to talk about The Cellar at Fright Fest. This was the closing night film at Fright Fest, but we decided to go out on a high and we ended the festival with Freaks Out, which we both loved, right?
Thankfully, yes, we did.
We missed The Cellar. Did we make a mistake in leaving and going to the pub and not seeing The Cellar?
We made the best choice. I think after Freaks Out, if we had sat and watched a math-based horror, basically I mean, Brad, you can make your joke now.
I forgot what it was.
Well, do you know what? Your joke is so good that someone else in the horror community has messaged me to say, loved Brad's review of The Cellar, how I Baphomet your mother. And I was like, he'll love that. He'll bloody love the fact that someone else quoted his pun at me.
Why didn't they message me?
They messaged me. Why am I your people?
That's amazing.
But yes, The Cellar is about moving to a new house. You know, very typical. That's what happens when you move to a new house. It's a bit creepy and strange. The teenage daughter, who's a total arse to her parents, she goes down into the cellar and she starts counting down into the cellar as she walks because the lights have gone out, so she needs to count down each one. And then her mother listens to her endlessly count on the phone as she disappears into the cellar. And then the rest of the movie is trying to find the missing counting teenage girl. And the ways they do it is like the Da Vinci Code, but shit.
Yeah, it's a lot of just like boring, miserable people staring at numbers and stuff, right? And talking about numbers. Becky, what did you think of The Cellar?
I fucking hated it. It was like it is so trope heavy that I started to become convinced that it was a spoof of horror films, because I figured nobody's making a serious horror film and putting all of these very obvious horror tropes into it. Like this has got to be like it's gonna like I was almost sort of like priming myself like, oh, it's a bit of hard work to get there, but it's all gonna get turned on its head. No, it's just shit. It's just really appallingly bad.
Oh, Brad, are you gonna stick up for this one?
Oh yeah, no. It's bargain basement Fulci, and I'm not having it.
I won't even have his name uttered in this thing.
It's Fulci though. He's proper ripping off Fulci, while also confirming that maths is the work of the devil.
Literally.
Yes. Well, that's true.
But the entire thing doesn't add up to much.
Oh, good.
Put that on the poster
and smoke it. I love it. Well, there you go. It's terrible. I agree with all of you. It's terrible. Really boring. Really boring. Let's just move on. So that was The Cellar.
Available on Shudder next month.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So everyone can check that out. Okay, The Cow. Let's talk about the next movie called The Cow. Becky, tell us about The Cow.
Upon arriving at a remote cabin, it's another remote cabin one, in the Redwoods, Kath and her boyfriend find a mysterious younger couple already there. The rental has apparently been double booked. With nowhere else to go, they decide to share the cabin with these strangers until the next morning. When her boyfriend disappears with the young woman, Kath becomes obsessed with finding an explanation for their sudden breakup, but the truth is far stranger than she could have imagined.
Yeah, this was weird, wasn't it?
It's an odd film.
What did you think of it, Becky?
I liked it.
Yeah.
This is the Winona Ryder one. So Kath is played by Winona Ryder. And then there's Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah.
Who is like, he like owns the cabin. So at some point in the film, those two like team up. So the two big stars of the movie team up to figure out what happened and why Winona Ryder's boyfriend ran off with this random girl that he met at the cabin this night. And I mean, it's not very horror. There's some sort of minor body horror stuff towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's like twisty turny thriller.
Yeah, it's kind of mystery, isn't it?
Yeah,
I suppose.
mystery thriller. I thought that the presence of like high caliber actors really helped. I think if it hadn't had people like Winona Ryder in it, it would have been a lot less enjoyable than it was. But on the whole, it was kind of fine.
It reminded me a bit of, it felt like a bit like it was trying to be something like Memento, the way that it sort of kept like jumping back and forth to kind of piece together this
sort of jigsaw,
and reveal stuff. Louise, what did you think of this one?
I completely agree that if it was anyone other than Winona Ryder, I think we would not have forgiven this movie. I think it's the same as Monstrous from Fright Fest. Like, I would never have watched anyone other than Christina Ricci do that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, she's very watchable. I like the twisty turniness, even though you automatically go, oh, well, there's more to the story here. but the more to the story, you probably won't guess. So it's
no. What the hell?
I kind of disagree with that because I really guessed really early, and so actually I was just watching it along, waiting for that reveal. I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I know what's happening. How are they going to get there?
Right.
Well, no.
Yeah.
I digress. I would be more of a why. I think it was the why. I couldn't have guessed why, but I could have guessed that. I don't think anyone would have guessed precisely why. But yes, you were waiting for it. This is a movie for a reason.
Right, exactly. Brad, what did you think of it?
Drain the life out of me, mate.
Nice. Yeah. It was
it's hard work.
It is hard work. I kind of was into it at the beginning. At the beginning, I was like, "Oh, is this going to be awkward people stuck in a cabin together?" Because I'm up for that. And then it wasn't that, and it started going off in directions that I was much less interested in. And by the end, I was like, "Meh." And I completely agree with you guys. Like, I think Winona Ryder made it that much more watchable. Otherwise, it sort of felt a bit like a kind of bad TV movie or something for a lot of it. But yeah. No, not
Mulroney's aged like a fine wine, though, isn't he?
Oh,
he's
yeah.
looking rugged and buff, isn't he? He looks great. So there you go. So that was The Cow. And next up, we're going to talk about Soft and Quiet. Louise's face. Oh,
best of luck with this.
Face grippingly anxiety inducing, and literally I realized I was grabbing parts of myself while watching it, just going, oh, this is making me so deeply uncomfortable. Not those parts, Brad, shut up. But just literally, just like, it made me deeply uncomfortable. I mean, it was I still can't decide if it does what I think it does what it intends to do. And I don't know if that always has to line up with
what you want to sit through. So what I'm not going to say too much about the story. I feel like I don't want to reveal what this is, but I will say that it's this very intense one take movie, or at least it appears to be one continuous take movie, right? And the setup is we've got this youngish, kind of very sort of white middle class mother. She's a teacher. She's very kind of like classic kind of, middle class friendly seeming woman. She goes and meets these other women at this like little shack cabin in the woods.
Well, it's like a church sort of church.
That's it.
Room, isn't it?
It's like a little church room, exactly. And she meets some fellow like-minded women, and they have a little chat. And suddenly you start to realize what's actually going on here. Becky, I think you described it as like your jaw was on the floor after about 15 minutes.
15 minutes where you're just like, you're following the main lady and you're like, okay, like this is just the setup to the movie. 15 minutes in, boom, I was like, oh, it's that. And then the story just gets more and more fucked up and disturbing and upsetting and anxiety inducing, and it just doesn't let up, does it, until the very end, to the point where you are almost wanting it to end so that you could just like be relieved of this hell that you're in. But I kind of thought it was incredible in that regard. Like I think all of those things it was doing is what it set out to do, and it kind of had me in the palm of its hands. So I sort of loved it. Not that it was, like you said, Louise, a very enjoyable experience. Yeah.
But Becky, what did you think?
Looking down my star ratings for all the films we watched, I rated this one the highest. I think it's the best film we saw. That doesn't mean that I enjoyed watching it. It's an absolute ordeal. I mean, it was a little bit like the last time I felt the same way was when I came out of Titan at London Film Festival last year and had to go and have a pint and a cigarette and just like sit quietly by myself for 15 minutes. And I was watching this at home. And I was actually in the room with my husband while I was sort of sitting just on like a soft chair watching it like on a little screen, and he'd sort of keep turning around and like trying to sort of say something to me, which is usually fine, like even if it's like a horror or whatever, and every time I'd just be like don't try and engage with me at the moment. I can't do this and that at once. I'm going through some stuff. Yeah. And then like afterwards was just like ashen and felt like I needed a shower.
Yeah. I think that's pretty accurate. Brad, what about you? What did you think of this one?
What I will say is you will not see the twist coming. I think I got away with that.
You did well there. It was all in the delivery. It was good.
Yeah. I thought it was great. But great being not the word I want to actually use. Confronting, challenging, tough. At times, I was not entirely sure what the film was fucking going for. That it was so unrelenting and kind of brutal, and it kind of ends in a way where the ambiguity of the entire situation leaves you in this kind of funk where you're like, well, it might be okay, but it probably isn't, and it leaves you with a lot more questions than answers. But I really, once again, endured the ride rather than enjoyed. And I endured the ride and thought it was an affecting and confronting sort of look at subsections of America that are hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, we should say it's directed by Beth D'Arajo, and I think it's her feature debut. It's really astounding, isn't it? Like, I think, I don't know. I don't know if any of us know if this is getting any kind of distribution. It's Blumhouse, right? So it must be getting a release at some point.
Something.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what people think of this.
It's difficult I think that's definitely not a date movie or a let's go on Friday night movie. I think people need to kind of know what they're going to watch, especially watching at home. Like I think going in, you need to know it's not your Friday night schlocks slasher.
This is what I would call like extreme cinema. Like I thought it was, that challenging.
Brad's face.
I mean, it's
Well,
it's-
yes, but I mean, I don't.
Brad's making faces.
I would say, funny games, those
Yeah.
kind of movies, and I think
Yeah.
it depends if you can stomach those sorts of films and how extreme you'd consider those sorts of films. But yeah.
See, I would consider those quite extreme. So
Yeah,
I
I
find
know what you
those very
mean.
extreme.
yeah.
Like that's my level.
Brad's like, whatever, I've got it on right now. It's
Oh,
fine.
I literally watched it last week with a girlfriend and ruined her life. So
Lovely. So there you go. So that's soft and quiet. Let's talk about No Looking Back. No Looking Back, which Brad, only you had a chance to see. Brad, over to you.
After 4 years in prison, Olia decides to start over. At first, all she wants to do is get her 10-year-old daughter back. However, the overbearing grandma isn't letting her grandchild go without a fight. The family conflict quickly gets out of control and turns into a wild chase. And it definitely won't end well for anyone.
Sounds interesting. What did you think?
This is a Russian movie, which was pulled. Was this one pulled?
This was the one that was pulled from Glasgow, right?
I think so. Or was it the execution?
The execution was pulled, but I think there were two showing.
There were
I
two
think they
films.
were both
So
pulled.
maybe this one was pulled as well.
I
From
think this
Glasgow,
one was
yeah.
pulled, but South by Southwest showed it. It's from Kirill Sokolov, who did a film called Why Don't You Just Die?
Oh yeah.
From a few years back, which was kind of that Tarantino-esque kind of slapstick. I think that was like would-be son-in-law versus would-be father-in-law. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of battle of the not sexes, but battle of the male ego.
Generations.
Generational, and there's hammers and violence. And this film is very kind of thematically similar, but looking at motherhood and maternal sides of things. There's definitely, bizarrely, some quite prevalent Ukrainian imagery. There's a lot of gold fields and blue skies. And I wonder how much of this film is an allegory for Mother Russia taking things that don't belong to it. Obviously, this guy would never know that this was going to happen when he made it, but there seems to be something about political tensions kind of repurposed into this mother and homeland and sort of family and history and legacy kind of pieced together with this kind of fight for survival.
I didn't like Why Don't You Just Die at all. And in fact, I don't think I even finished it. I found it really grating. So
You won't like this one then.
I decided to give it a swerve.
Yeah, it's the same. It's quite frenetic, quick cut,
Yeah.
kind of slapsticky, violent. It's like that, but in a car.
Right. Okay. All right. Good to know. So that's No Looking Back. Let's talk about the next film, Hypochondriac. Ooh. Louise, tell us a bit about Hypochondriac.
So Hypochondriac, I would just say that I got so stressed in the middle of Hypochondriac that I ordered a new Switch. I was like, must do something that will make me happy. But I found it a really genuinely quite affecting film. I mean, it's to say that the director, I think Addison Hyman, he directed it, and it's a very LGBTQ+, very queer-friendly movie. It shows a relationship between two guys, which I just absolutely adored, this relationship between these two guys. And he's got a past. His mother his mother tried to kill him when he was younger. She's bipolar, and he's kind of put that all in the past. And he's got a great job, and he's got a great relationship, and he's really good friends. But something sort of comes back into his life, and he then starts to kind of fall to pieces when he sees this kind of supernatural, I would say Donnie Darko style monster that begins kind of taking over his life and over his brain. And the director has said that he took this directly from his own breakdown, from his own experiences and from his own trauma. And I do think it's a really affecting movie. I think you can look at it and say he looks like Frank at any point during the movie, but I also think that it was really heartfelt and difficult and stressful, and a really sad and heartbreaking depiction of mental health and feeling that things are genetic, and feeling like you're not you're part of a family, and I think there was multiple layers to it. I don't think it's a perfect horror film, but I think as a depiction of the sad depiction of relationships collapsing under mental strain, it was really affecting for me.
Yeah, I thought it was quite affecting as well. And yeah, some of the things kind of pulled me out of it a bit, like the Frank from Donnie. It was so much like Donnie Darko that I was like, oh, wow. But I thought that the central relationship between the two guys was really compelling as well. And I was genuinely quite intrigued, as it does that thing that a lot of horror films about mental health do, right? Which is that it plays with your perception and what can you trust and what's real and what isn't and where is this going. And all of that I find quite stressful in a way, but I guess in the way that it wants you to find it stressful, So yeah, I thought it was quite interesting. Brad, what did you think of this one?
I liked it, didn't love it. I think, as you say, the stuff with the creature design is to the point of distraction quite Donnie Darko-esque.
Yeah.
What I will say is nice to see arse eating getting front and center billing in a film, because we all do it, and
there is a key like that rimming scene is key to the plot as well.
Big time.
Yeah.
That would have been the angle that I would have taken there, Brad, was, isn't it really nice to see a genuine gay relationship on screen? But I'm really glad you just went straight there.
Straight into the arse.
I was just like, isn't this brilliant? Oh, okay. Yep.
It's nice to see.
I mean, that it is. And also, I think even for the existence of that was actually showing this great, healthy relationship that was just being absolutely destroyed with sadness. And I think that was the thing. It was like, oh, this is great. We're seeing this. We're seeing these guys cooking together. We're seeing them fucking. This is brilliant. But then obviously we are watching a horror film and we have to go, oh, yes, it has to go really wrong. But I did find it weirdly heartwarming.
It's quite naturalistic. It doesn't feel like it's sensationalist or forced. It seems quite matter of fact. Yeah. Which is refreshing.
It is. It makes it quite a sad watch, isn't it? It's not like I wouldn't say pop it on a Friday. Again, maybe not the best date movie, right? Despite the fact that there is some rimming. Not the best date movie, maybe. Yeah, doesn't it? It doesn't end well.
That's a poster quote.
Yeah.
Shepherd can have that one.
Yeah, Shepherd.
Yeah, you can have that for free, Shepherd. Yeah.
Not 2 stars, but 4 stars.
Exactly. So there you go. So that was Hypochondriac. And then, Becky, tell us about the prank.
Ben is your typical high school overachiever. He's organized, careful, goal-oriented, and extremely dedicated to school. His best friend, Tanner, couldn't be more opposite. She's a lackadaisical, messy slacker who lives in the moment. They aren't popular, but they don't seem to care that much because they have each other. Ben has a stern, mean, and cruel physics teacher. She has been teaching at the school for decades and has a reputation for being the hardest, coldest, strictest faculty member. She fails Ben's entire class unless a student who cheated comes forward. When no one does, Tanner and Ben hatch a plan to ruin her life and frame her for murder on social media.
It's more social media. Yeah, it's very, very much a kind of teen movie, right? What did you think of this, Becky?
Thankfully, the social media is much more minimal than like front and center, like it is in Sxsw and Deadstream.
Yeah.
I really liked this. Like, it's not a horror film; it's a comedy film. There are some smatterings of horror-y stuff towards the end that makes it make sense that it was on like the Midnighters part of the schedule. It's good. Like, I enjoyed it. It was fun, and I thought that Ben and Tanner were good. So you've got the Ben, who's like really the central lead, is Connor Kalopsis, and then Ramona Young plays Tanner, and I've definitely seen her in other things. I think she's in Santa Clarita Diet, some other bits and pieces. She's really good. And then as Mrs. Wheeler, who's like this evil teacher, it's Rita Moreno, who's like a really, really famous, like I think she must be Latin American, because she was in the original like West Side Story, and in fact I think she does a small part in the remake of West Side Story. So anyway,
she's an EGOT winner. She's done.
Oh, she's an EGOT winner.
Done the Big Four. Yeah, she's a big
Go
deal.
Rita.
Yeah.
I mean, I really liked it. I thought it was fun. I thought the representation was good. I thought it wasn't too kind of obnoxious to spend time with these kids, even though there's some sort of slightly obnoxious teen stuff going on at points. I wasn't convinced that it stuck the landing. I wasn't too convinced by the ending, but on the whole, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I said to you, I think, Becky, didn't I? That, like, it felt kind of 90s, whilst also feeling very Gen Z, but it had a kind of Kevin Williamson vibe to it or something didn't it, as well. Louise, what did you think of the prank?
So I agree with Becky in the fact that I really liked the kids. They were really compelling. They were really interesting. I really liked the tone. I thought it was funny. I thought it was really sweet. And there was a lot of the internet commentary wasn't gross. It was just like, here's how Twitter goes and here's how cancel culture goes and all these things. And that was fine. I kind of wished it wasn't a horror film because I felt like I was waiting for what happened at the end to happen so badly that it almost distracted from the entire rest of the movie. I was like, well, you're going to do this now because you're going to have to do it because there's nowhere else you can go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I felt that crushed the two acts that came before it because it was the only way the movie could go. So I found it weirdly, I wanted it to subvert my expectations, but by its very nature, it couldn't. So I just wanted it to be a drama with these kids because, as you say, they're great. The performances are great. Like everyone's happy making, and there's this great tone to it. But at the same time, I'm just like, it backs itself into such a small corner that it can only do one thing.
And it is. This is something that Brad said already, I think, but it felt so much like Teaching Mrs. Tingle to me as well. Do you guys remember Teaching Mrs. Tingle, the Kevin Williamson film? Like it was overtly like. I don't know whether that's just homage or rip-off, but it felt like so freakishly similar to me. Brad, we were just saying Teaching Mrs. Tingle vibes, right? Big time.
Oh, who stole my fucking bit I wanted to say?
Well, I did.
it.
I did credit you, Brad. I said you had already mentioned this as well. But yeah, go on, Brad. Go on.
The film kind of smacked of Teaching Mrs. Tingle. I don't know if anyone.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Brad.
That's so astute.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, no one's ever said that before.
Kevin Williamson one, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I really liked Rita Moreno's turn in the film. I think she's kind of playing that kind of high camp role quite well. And she's also like a great balance between kind of comical and farcical and also quite genuinely menacing. I think the relationship between the two kids is great. Love Tanner, really like her, like as a performance. I think she's really fun. But yeah, it's not horror per se, but as like a fun teen movie, as I say, in the vein of, I don't know, like Teaching Mrs. Tingle for like off the top of my head. It's good.
Oh, there you go. So that's the prank. All right, the last one we're going to talk about, and I don't even like saying this title. It makes me sound like the whitest person in the world, but we're going to finish by talking about bitch ass. Becky, talk to me about bitch ass.
Stop saying it.
No, come to the set, like Home Counties. Brilliant, thanks. Okay, the year is 1980. Young Sxsw is bullied by kids in the 6th Street gang for being fat, shy, and always playing board games. Soulmate.
Yeah, sounds like a legend.
They all pick on him and call him bitch ass. On a gang initiation night, they jump him and leave him for dead. Fast forward to 1999. No one has seen or heard from bitch ass since, and he has become an urban legend. Now a new crop of 6th Street recruits are gearing up for another initiation night. They're tasked with robbing a house, but little do they know they're walking into bitch ass's house, and he has been plotting his revenge by building deadly versions of the childhood games they bullied him for playing. Let the games begin.
Ooh, nice. I didn't get a chance to see this one. Becky, how was it? Was it good?
I think you'd really like this. It's so for me, it's People Under the Stairs meets Jumanji meets Saw.
Oh.
It's like
all
it's
of these things I like.
Yeah, well, this is why I think you'd like it.
Yeah.
It's like a reverse home invasion in that these kids who are kind of up to no good, but have no idea like what they're walking into. Like they go into a house and it turns out that the house is really, really dangerous. And it's like, it's really high concept. It's got a kind of like I don't know, the killer, like bitch ass, who I don't think it's a spoiler to say because it says in the synopsis that he's like out for revenge. So he's like the kind of danger at the center of this film, and he's like set up all of these kind of like there's like a deadly Connect 4 and a deadly Jenga and stuff like that. So it's like it's high concept, and then on top of that, like visually it's quite stylized, so it's got like sort of comic book elements to it, and I guess there are points where it's almost like watching a board game because like there are cards that flip over and things like that, but at the center of all of that, it's just like it's a good little story. I liked the characters, I believed it, and it's got some good kills. I really rated it. It's great.
Oh, I kind of gutted I missed this one now. That sounds really interesting. Louise, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I really liked it. Any kind of like murderous Connect 4, I didn't know how I would do it. And then suddenly I want a sequel. I'm like, come on, add hungry hippos next.
Yeah.
Hippos. We
Oh
want the
my
hippos.
God. Yeah.
Like,
You know, the
suddenly-
most deadly animal
Mousetrap.
in Africa, Louise.
Yeah,
I mean, you know.
you could add hippos, you could add mousetrap. No, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really entertaining. I thought it was really groovy. I really liked the sort of high concept nature. So every time you would come into one of the traps, the card would come up. It would be like bitch ass versus this guy, and it would just be really fun. And then they'd get crossed out when they died. And yeah, Saw with battleships. I mean, I was watching it and going, gosh, if Spiral had been this, I would have fucking loved it. If Spiral had been this, murderous board games, I'd have been in. But no, it's really fun. It's really inventive. It's introduced by Tony Todd.
Right.
Bliss.
So this is, and excuse the pun, but the film plays a dangerous game because it's literally the opener is Tony Todd listing off a load of incredible, like black horror films, right? Like horror noir films. So he lists off Candyman, Tales from the Hood, People Under the Stairs, Bones, like all of these like really like Blackula, great films. And you're thinking, this is an extremely bold assertion to be putting at the front of your movie.
Yeah.
Like sort of putting yourself in the conversation with it. And for me, it actually really succeeded. I thought it was up there. I really liked it.
Oh man. Brad, what did you think?
I don't like it.
Oh no, why didn't you like
Let me
it?
explain.
Yeah.
The visual choices to
Okay.
like as Becky has said.
Okay.
As Becky has said, this is shot like a comic book in certain like, so it's all in panels and some of it's letterbox and some of it's bigger and there's loads.
Oh, I
of different
saw on our WhatsApp group you were all having a conversation about aspect ratios and
Ah,
I
things.
wanted,
right.
to make
There's
sure
a-
I wanted to make sure my screener wasn't broken because I was like, I'm watching this on a letterbox within a letterbox.
Yeah.
It's
What's
just-
going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's great. You know, it's you're so clever for playing around with aspect ratios. What you've actually shown me is you don't know how to frame shots. Because literally half the fucking film is like this. Yeah, but what are you gonna say about this?
That was why I thought it had gone
And
wrong.
then
The
half
tops
of
of
it is like
people's
this.
fingers.
Fucking what? Out like annoyed the fuck out of me. Honestly. Oh,
It's good. You're such a purist, Brad. That's why.
I am a Malik.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. You'd
Won't
rather
have it.
watch some Kubrick or some Malik. Yeah.
Fuck's sake. Like, it just proves to me that you don't know how to frame shots or that you weren't thinking about composition when you were filming it. And now you've decided to cut the top of Tony Todd's head off while he's introducing the film.
Well, there you go. Well, good. Well, does anyone know if Bitch Ass is getting distribution of any kind?
No idea.
No, I
No
kind of
idea.
want to see it now.
Like,
but,
well, I'd like to see it again.
yeah. Oh well, hopefully that will come back at some point. So there you go. What's your favorite pick of the Midnighter horror genre features that we've discussed there? What is your favorite, Louise?
Deadstream.
Deadstream. Brad, favorite?
Deadstream.
Deadstream as well. Yeah. Becky.
Well, now you've used the word favorite, which makes it difficult because the best one is Soft and Quiet, but my favorite was Deadstream.
I'm right there with you all as well. Most enjoyable was definitely Deadstream and X as well. But then Soft and Quiet is going to be the one that I'm going to be thinking about for a very
Yeah.
long time as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. Guys, thank you very much.
Yay!
Thank you.
Cheers.
Looking for more horror content? Subscribe now for more videos like this one and listen to the Evolution of Horror podcast. Head on over to evolutionofhorror.com.